Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Mark. I'm your teacher today. Teacher, that's not quite the word. Lecturer. I really should think about what the word is here. And as you know, today is about professionalism in the ELT classroom. So there's quite a lot to get through here. I'd be very glad if one or two of you could put up hello from Canada. Sunny but also cool Cheltenham here. I'm speaking to you from Cheltenham in the UK. So we'll get straight into this, and of course, many of you here today will be people who have been professionals either in teaching or in other areas, other industries, and so you'll already be aware with any career what you put in is what you get out, of course. And as a new EFL teacher or ESL teacher, you'll soon learn that in teaching there are certain required standards of professionalism which have to be maintained. One of the things I would say about that is that wherever you go, you may always find people who you're working side by side with who don't maintain the same standards. You keep them regardless of what other people will do. As you can see here for the first slide, or this is slide 2, you've got 5 different points that we're going to be covering in professionalism. So have a good look at the 5 of those. It'll tell you where you are as I'm talking, and which ones we're going to deal with. Also think about maybe which ones you will find the most challenging. So we'll jump straight in and go to the one that is normally the most demanding, which is administration. It's normally the most demanding because we're teachers, we're people. We're not bean counters, we're not pen pushers, we're not accountants in general, and we are the lesser for it, I'll hasten to point out. So administration is something really I cannot stress enough. If you find this demanding, really embrace it with put your arms around this one. The more that you put into the administration, the more it'll help you back in your teaching as well. So I think that's so important just to remember that. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples now of the sort of thing that you can be doing to help you with your administration. So first of all, and this is for anybody, but in particular for a new teacher, your weekly teaching timetable sounds like a fairly obvious one, but you wouldn't be the first teachers to ever catch yourself halfway around thinking, hang on, I don't know where I'm going next or who I'm teaching. Especially in the modern classroom, a to-do list in terms of your technology, anything you're taking in, materials. I would say nowadays this has got a little bit easier than when I started teaching, which was 30 something years ago, because so much of it is done, you would hope, is done in advance and goes up onto a whiteboard rather than being endless pieces of paper that you have to distribute to everybody. But that will depend on your particular circumstances as well. For a new teacher, biggest single thing you need, a reflection section. So what worked well, what you could do better next time. It will very much depend on how you're teaching. You may have several different classes, or you may have the same class every single day. The more disparate your classes are, the more you need that reflection, the more you need the idea of where you are and what you have done as well. So useful to include a short summary of everything you completed in a class. If you got 20 different classes, very easy to forget how far you got in Monday's lesson. So I'm just trying to click over to that. Have that done? Yeah. Okay. And the other one as well, your teaching file. Now, obviously, this will largely be dictated by the exigencies of the school that you're working for as well. So your syllabus, scheme of work, your register, the worksheets. Worksheets are a good one to really think about trying to keep up to date, in the sense of, maybe you hold on to them till the next lesson. But if you are handing things out, of course, there'll always be people who are absent. So put these, keep them on one side, then hand out any extra copies to people who are absent, so people stay up to date with the material, and then get rid of everything bar one copy, so you know exactly what you did. And write a date on that copy if you're working in paper. Like I say, most of us nowadays, if you're communicating with your class through WhatsApp instead or something like that, then much easier. You can see exactly, everybody's got everything regardless of whether they were there or not, and life is much easier. And that's what it means as well about keeping the file up to date as well. So moving on. Okay, this is a biggie as well nowadays. Nothing worse than finding a fantastic teaching online site and then losing the link. And if you find something useful, keep your reference in your online resource file. And of course, do not forget to acknowledge the author of the resource. Remember to research the usage rights as well. If there's a copyright, you need to say, of course, a lot of stuff that you will get, the accreditation, if that's the word, will simply be copied onto it. But nevertheless, really make sure that's done correctly. The sort of thing that school inspectors tend to pick up on, in my experience as well. Lesson preparation. Don't take fright at what I'm about to say or what is actually down here. For each hour you teach face-to-face, you could spend an additional 2 hours of lesson preparation. Doesn't necessarily mean that you are, and of course, with time and with administration, come more materials, a good referencing system where you're thinking, hang on, I've taught that in the past, I can go back, I can pick it up easily, and you've maybe got the reflection as well. So you think, okay, how did it work? Do I need to change anything on it? Can I make it work even better? And of course, a backup plan for anything that could go wrong. This is one I still remember in the early days of teaching technology, classroom technology, which was the early 2010s, and I was a director of studies. I was being sent out left, right, and centre to find the best interactive whiteboards and things for our classrooms. And the number of presentations that I went to where things didn't go right when they're trying to teach you about technology in the classroom, and then they spent their allotted time fiddling about with it rather than saying, okay, right, forget about it, let's just get on with the class. The class, your students want you to be saying, okay, right, tech's not working, forget it, let's hit the class. That's what's important about this. So that's your backup, that's your main backup. Other things that could go wrong, things don't work as well. And what I mean by things don't work, I don't just mean the tech. I mean, an exercise doesn't work, they don't get it. That's a great thing to reflect as well. That's part of your professionalism in the class and after the class. What's going wrong? Don't be scared to admit what's going wrong and say, okay, guys, this isn't working. Let's stop and let's move on to the next thing. And then think to yourself afterwards about why it went wrong and how you could make it right. And if simply the material isn't right, as is sometimes the case, maybe it needs to go for a higher or a lower level. That's the preparation. Students can tell when a teacher isn't prepared, and they're prepared to forgive the occasional slip. They won't be happy if it's a regular thing. So the extra resources you also need, set time aside to get this done properly. If you rush, you pay for it, or you'll go over time, not manage to cover everything, or you'll finish too quickly and have a struggle to fill in the time that's left. As you get experience, this gets easier and quicker, and you can recycle and adapt, as I said. One thing I would point out for this, and it's a great one, it is part of professionalism, is what we call emergent language. So the stuff that comes up in the class that isn't part of the curriculum, maybe it's something that somebody has tried to say and you said, okay, no, that's actually another way of saying that, that's really good, but this is the way. So you're teaching them the A to B, the straight line, you're teaching them the best phrase for something. Once you've taught it, note it down. Or once it's noted down, of course, if you do find yourself with that spare 5 minutes, as every teacher does, okay, you've got maybe over the duration of a few lessons, you've got 10, 15, 20 items, and you can say, okay, pen, paper, let's revise these, give them a definition of a particular word, or ask them to complete a phrasal verb, so they've got to put in the preposition. Anything you like. You've got those extra little things that you can do that are so useful, and it overcomes. It's part of your backup, but it also comes up. And helps you so much with other little bits and pieces as well, in terms, of course, of timing. Right. I think. Okay. Sorry, I think I pretty much covered that one as well, in terms of time management and the extra resources, and again thinking about those resources, or once they have been used, not just creating them and putting them to one side, thinking about where else you can use them, but also adapting them as you need to. Interaction with students. This is oddly a difficult one. Many of us, our only experience of the classroom before we go into the EFL is our own schooling, which is a very different scenario and a very different dynamic to what we're expecting. So what we have instead is something where you're thinking very much more of, this is a class among equals. You're trying to teach, you're trying to communicate, but we are all in this together. We are all working towards the common goal. Very different dynamic, and it's quite difficult to get it right when you're not used to it. But as it says here, don't be a mum, a dad, or a friend. You can, however, ask them about how things are going in their lives. Ask them about school, university, if they've got exams, ask them how they're going. Show interest in them. Doesn't mean you have to communicate about your own life as well. They don't want to know about your stuff, but they do want you to show an interest in them. If you've got anything going on at home, as so many of us do at some time or other, they don't want to know about it. You are the teacher, and anything that happens at home in your life, it goes to one side at the door, and you become the teacher again. Punctuality, which I think is so important. Again, nowadays with the tech, if it is at all possible, make sure that you're there beforehand. You've set everything up. Nothing quite like a teacher coming in late. Everybody's sat there and then you're faffing about. And of course, because everybody's looking at you, it takes 3 times longer than it would if you were just there able to do it yourself. Have everything up and ready and be the first one in. And then when they do come in, that's a chance for the people who arrive the earliest to actually have a little bit of a chat, find out what's going on. I will mention somebody else here as well. A learner-centered classroom, as we talk about it. Now, this is Rita Pearson. She's got a TED talk about this, which you might have seen. Every child deserves a champion. And she says all great teachers are also great actors and actresses. But, this might be one that you've been familiar with. The class is about your students and their learning. It's not about your performance. I struggle with the word performance. I've seen teachers who are very good performers. That doesn't mean they're communicating a great deal. Also, pretty much goes without saying, but it's important you dress appropriately. Again, you may be around other people who aren't dressing, other teachers who aren't dressing as well. Make sure that you rise above it. Dress absolutely as you should. I wouldn't. What I'm wearing, I've just got a sweater and a t-shirt on. I wouldn't wear this for a lesson. I'd have a collar with a shirt. I'd have a shirt with a collar, and I wouldn't go in with trainers. It depends on your individual circumstances, or rather, not your individual circumstances, but the circumstances of your school as well. But really try to dress up. Don't just try to fulfill whatever the minimum that the school expects of you. Remember that you're a professional, and it makes you feel a great deal better as well, I can promise you. Okay. I think I've covered most of these as well. Empathy, show an interest in them. Minimize teacher talk, of course, and listen carefully. And that listening carefully is where you get those bits, as I said, that extra language, those bits that make them know that they're being listened to as individuals, that they can they're trying to express something and you help them. You're not just concerned with, okay, we're all here, we do what's on the curriculum. I'm listening and I want to help you express yourself in the way that you want to express yourself as well. Okay. Be encouraging. One thing that you've got is, of course, you speak the best English in the class. Very easy to use that to give vent to your humour and to get a cheap laugh sometimes. All very well, but you're there for everybody, and many students will not like that. Sometimes they can. Some that you get to know your students. You get to know the ones you can have a bit of a laugh with, and the ones who don't want to. Who don't want to have anything, who don't want to be the butt of your humour in that way. Obviously, don't have favourites, a sense of humour, but like I say, a sense of humour that involves laughing with rather than laughing at. And a big one, I think, especially in the age of the mobile phone, a contract, a class contract, things that you will do, but things that you are expecting them to do as well. And that, of course, normally will involve some dealing with the mobile phone in whichever way that your school think is appropriate. Familiarize yourself with the safeguarding policy. That's an important one. Always remember with safeguarding, you should not be under the obligation of taking any kind of action. You are a listener, you're a reporter, and you should always, in any school, you should always have somebody that you can move that information onto and then be guided by them, and it's then therefore their decision as to whether they escalate it further. It is not your responsibility to do that. You are only the conduit and nothing else. Always important to know that, because people can feel under immense pressure when dealing with any kind of situation like that, and it's not, you should not be placed in that situation. Okay. This is a big one for teachers early on. Yes, you can ask them. It's such a stressful aspect as well. You don't know the answer. Much, much better, I'll always say this, to admit that you don't know the answer, turning it into a positive learning experience by asking them to research it, but also, of course, finding out for yourself, because if it's asked once, it'll be asked again, and you need to be ready for it the next time. Online lessons, if they're going to be using tech, then great, get them to do so. And again, they always understand this. If you have teacher worksheets, Kahoot quizzes, things like that, they can see the work that's gone into it, and that is so important for them. As it says here, be flexible, accept and embrace each new situation. Above all else, for this one, learn composure. There'll be times when the situation develops and you need to keep your composure and not react. If you're not sure how to react, the best rule of thumb is don't until you have a chance to think about it. If you want to travel while you're teaching English, you're going to have to adapt to new countries, new situations. Not everywhere is the same. One time you'll be teaching 15 children, the next time might be 30. You need to be ready to accept and embrace every new situation that you have to. And it's one of the glories of what we do, is that change and that difference and that flexibility that we can bring to it. Personal learning networks. I find the idea of a personal learning network is obviously a great idea. I don't think it needs an acronym. You'll find out very quickly who the best teachers are, and they're not always necessarily the teachers that are the first to make friends with you as well. Find good teachers, ask them and use them. And one thing that teachers are normally very, very happy to do is to allow you to come into their classroom if time permits. So you can go in, you can look at what they did. They may even ask you for feedback. If they do, don't kill the golden goose by slaughtering them. Really, really think about all the things that you liked about their class. Maybe ask one or two questions as well about things you weren't sure about. let them clarify. And they might even say, thank you very much. That's really interesting. I'm glad that I'm glad that you brought that up. That's something I'll think about for the future as well. Having another pair of eyes in the class is absolutely brilliant. Okay. Continuing professional development. Now, this does merit an acronym, I have to say. The EFL field is constantly changing. You do need to keep yourself up to date. And if you hope to maintain a professional image as a knowledgeable EFL teacher, you'll have to be familiar with the latest teaching methodologies. Try to attend seminars and lectures whenever you can, and subscribe to EFL blogs. There's lots and lots and lots of stuff out there, and it is expanding exponentially. So it's such a great thing to do, and it comes up with so much that you think, maybe I'll give that a try. I'll talk about one that I've been looking at recently as well, fairly shortly. Any decent school should subscribe to at least a couple of magazines. Even now, there might be online magazines nowadays, of course, but they should all be there. They should just be in the classroom, in the staff room. Pick them up, take them home, leaf through when you've got a moment, take a course. And again, you should be approaching your school and saying, okay, this isn't going to cost very much. Is it okay? Is it okay if I take this? Webinars nowadays being the thing, of course, this is the most common way, so you don't have to travel anywhere else to do it. The resources that are related to your specialization, loads and loads of just brilliant and amazing books that you can use as well, that you can read to update your TEFL knowledge, and even just brush up on places you don't normally focus on. You can come up with the how-to series, of course, which is always a good one, by Pearson. How to teach English, how to teach pronunciation, how to teach vocabulary, and there's thousands and thousands of others which are really good. I'll give you a few of them. EFL magazine, Demand High ELT. Now, this is an absolutely brilliant one. This is about 8 years old now. This was Jim Scrivener and Adrian Underhill, both of whose books I think I have here. This one you're probably familiar with I'll do that one better. It's one that is just indispensable for early teachers. And the other one I've got somewhere, Adrian Underhill, Sound Foundations. He's the IPA that you will use in pronunciation lessons is his baby. And they have a great idea with Demand High, and it's really worth investigating, where you think about differentiation in the classroom, where we get so used to the idea of, okay, here's the answer, right, you've got the words in the right order. Okay, that's fine. You've said the words that I wanted you to. You've put them in the right order. Now, okay, how else can you say them? How do you say them as a question? How do you say them with surprise? How do you say them with anger? What else can you do with them? Can you change, is there any aspect of it you can change around? Getting people to work harder with the language, and taking back very much the idea of you as a teacher. There's the British Council, brilliant idea. I've just started teaching EFL, which is largely for asylum seekers. Very new for me, something that I haven't done for a long time, and it's very, very low level. And I'm finding the British Council website is absolutely invaluable for those lower levels. English language teaching blog, all sorts. Also, I'll point out that if you go to lectures, conferences, things like that, then it's also a great way of increasing that network as well. Talk to people when you're there. If they're there, they tend to be interested, whether they're there as an attendee or if they're presenting. They want to be there. They want to talk about this. That's why they're there in the first place. So that's a great idea. Okay, that's possibly the last and most important thing now that I'm going to point out. Maintain a balance between work and personal life. Now, in various of the jobs that I have done, being either a director of studies or running a language company, or running a branch of a language company, I have encountered many people who have come to us from different sectors, where in particular state school sectors, higher education as well, where they were burnt out. The strictures, it wasn't about the students, the strictures that were in place, the amount of preparation they were doing, which was based around funding as opposed to actually teaching. The whole, being sacked and reapplying for your own job, all sorts of things that are going on in the modern world. And so many of them would come to TEFL, and they'd come to it for the simple reason that it was a job that they could do. They could do as well as they could. They could put everything into it and go home. And at the end of the day, it was something nice. They didn't have to carry it home with them, and they didn't have to carry it about. It wasn't affecting sleep. It wasn't affecting anything else in their lives. And this is a great job, I think, for that. But you have to work at that as well. It really, really should be a job that you can have a great time doing and take home and leave at the door. Again, professional help may cost, but it may be really, really important for you as well. Talk to other teachers about what they do as well. And this last bit I think is really important. Again, to repeat what we said at the start, what you put in is what you get out. You focus on professionalism, and then so much of the time that will help enjoyable classes. With enjoyable classes comes a positive loop, enjoying it more, wanting to learn more, wanting to teach more, and then really, really making the best of your teaching life. So I think that's more or less all. Now I'm going to wait on a little while. I'm going to do two things now. First of all, I'm going to post the feedback form for you. So I'd be very grateful if you would put that. If you would take that up. I would also ask for any questions that you have as well. I'm just going to quickly scroll back and have a look. I think everybody has been very, very nice and has just said hi. So lots of people from South Africa, Canada, Texas. I think I saw France there, Paris, Florida, Brazil, Spain. In fact, Spain and Italy in this company are actually fairly local, which is brilliant. Hello from Nigeria. So yeah, and only one or two people. Oh, from Greece, hi, and somebody from the UK. So brilliant. Lots of people from all over the world, which is really nice. So what I'm asking for is any questions that you would like to ask, and I'm going to stay up for a couple of minutes to see if you've got anything to ask. I normally have a good few here. William, I've got one question here that it's not really a question. I think you're asking everybody else, but I'll pop it up anyway. Any non-native English speakers getting the TEFL as well? I certainly hope so. As a native English speaker, I tend to forget that English is the world language, simply because it's the language that people who aren't native English speakers use to talk together. It's the lingua franca, rather than being just the what's used by Canadians, Americans, Australians, and British people. So that, I think, is such an important thing, and non-native English speakers can make every bit as good teachers of English as native English speakers. There's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be. Just looking for interesting question here. Thank you, Jeannie. Earliest age you can teach online, I believe, is 18. I do not know how much legislation exists around this, but any reputable company will be asking for sufficient information from you to establish your age, and obviously run criminal checks as well. So I'd be deeply suspicious of anywhere that didn't ask that sort of question, and to get some verifiable some verifiable answers. When you finish the course, how much time is there to start teaching? That really, unfortunately, is the how long is a piece of string question. I think in general, you may well start looking in advance. I think that would be probably if you're in a hurry to get started, I would start looking beforehand. If you communicate with educators, tell them what your situation is, stay communicative, and then normally you should be able to find that there's something that comes to you fairly quickly. But I would make those I would get that communication established in advance if you feel that you are happy to start. Also, I would say, and I'm not sure, I think we're diverging a little bit from professionalism. Also ask that question, how much teaching would you be doing? I don't think anybody should be finishing a single course without any teaching experience and they'd be expected to be thrown into 6 hours of teaching a day. Again, that would be to your detriment. That would be very much to your detriment as a teacher, because you're simply going to be doing meatball work rather than actually preparing and delivering to them. Okay, this is right. First of all, I'm sorry to hear about that, Darth. I would suggest first of all that you take this one upstairs, in the sense that you would really need to Persa. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the S there, but thank you for that. You move this one upstairs. You have senior people who are there to help you in a situation like that. One of the first things I would do is get somebody in to observe a lesson. If you get a senior person in, first of all, that normally helps. That normally means that the children will pipe right down anyway, which allows you to re-establish the contact that you need to actually get it back on an even keel. In terms of discipline, I think that contract is a really, really important one. Difficult one to do with young children, but nevertheless, they do understand they should understand enough. If they're learning a language, they should be old enough to understand there are things that they do not do, but to understand that there's things that you will do as well. I would say professionalism across the board with this. Also, I know it's an obvious one for young children, but really make sure that you're prepared absolutely up to the nines. Make sure there's lots and lots of things that you can do. So the sooner that they start losing their focus, bang, onto the next one. Keep it all really short, punchy exercises, move them from one thing to another. Don't let their feet touch the ground. Also, things like moving them around. If you tend to get that the troublemakers will tend to find each other and come together. Get them at the front of the class for one thing, and then also split them up. You can get them to the front and split them up. I'm sure both are possible, but get them spread around. My youngest daughter is 10, and she constantly bemoans the fact that because she's a well-behaved child, she gets an idiot boy, of course, sitting next to her, because the teachers are trying to divide and rule, and that's just in a junior state school. They're doing exactly the same thing. So I suggest you try that as well. But speak to people and get somebody in there to observe a lesson. Those would be my basic ones. Okay, I'm just going to return that. Please feel free to ask any other questions. I'll give it another 30 seconds before I ring off. Any further questions, I'm very happy to take them. I can be here all day. I'm just going to have a very quick look at make sure I've got nothing else that I haven't answered here. Okay, no, I think that's everything. Okay, if nobody has any further questions, I am just checking again because I always like to see. I will say thank you very much to everybody, and best of luck. And I may encounter you fairly shortly, maybe if I'm marking one of your assignments, or who knows, our paths may cross in teaching as well. Thank you very much, and see you all soon. Take care.